Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome in another new edition of Celtics Beat, and Happy New Year. I realized that I wasn't here with you last week. Evan Valenti, who is, of course, as always, here with us, holding down the fort and doing a great job at that. So hope you listened. If you didn't, you should go back because these things, there's a lot of good carryover information. It's not all just game analysis. I am Adam Kaufman. We have got Cedric Maxwell here with us, who, a man who doesn't need any introduction, but I'll do it anyway. He is, of course, a former NBA Finals MVP, a voice of the Celtics on the radio across the Celtics radio network, and, maybe most proudly, Max, part of the CLNS family with your podcast that you do so well and people I know are already subscribed to. How are you, buddy?
I am doing just fine, gentlemen. It's just been I don't even know. After yesterday and all the things that happened down in D.C., I don't know. We can get through this. I thought I was going to say get through 2020 and we will be clear. But look how you set off this first week of 2021. So I was saying.
Haven't you heard, Max? Hindsight is 2020. So, we're just going to continue to live it, I think, for a little while. It's awful.
Yeah, it seems exactly that way.
Let's talk. I don't want to go on too long about what happened, obviously, at the Capitol building, simply because I do think a lot of fans out there, basketball fans, they come to places like this podcast as an escape from reality and don't necessarily want to get bogged down with that. But we'd be remiss to not acknowledge, as it concerned the Celtics specifically, and what turned out to be a thrilling, very exciting win in Miami. And we missed you on the call for that, obviously. And Peyton Pritchard, the game-winning tip-in. We can talk plenty about him going forward, but the real talking points from the game weren't the game. They were what happened around it. Before the game, the C's walking off the floor along with the Heat, debating whether to play in the first place. Coach Brad Stevens saying that as close as a half hour before the game, he was calling his wife Tracy saying, I don't think we're going to play, as a result of the civil unrest there at the Capitol and the protesters, supporters of Donald Trump storming the Capitol building, and just the continued lack of support and proper attention on, obviously, social injustice and so many things, the Black Lives Matter that we have been talking about for months at this point in time. It just seems like, as Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum talked about and stood talking about for about 10 minutes post-game, the more things change, the more they stay the same. If there is one big takeaway, though, it's just that those two, and not to dismiss Jayson, but Jaylen in particular, is just, young leaders of men who are just doing such an incredible job at the forefront of using their platforms in the most positive way. You had to be proud.
Very proud. And to see them grow as men. You see them come in as, Tatum is a teenager and Brown almost a teenager, and watch them develop as players. But to watch them develop personally is huge. And, you talk about taking on social responsibility, something that during my years that we didn't do, we shied away from because there wasn't the social media platform to get there. But this platform that they have, they utilize that. They are small conglomerates in themselves when you think about how much money they make and the influence and the people that follow them. So for them to use it in that way about social issues, social injustice, I absolutely applaud everything that they do.
I'm just thinking about what you just said as far as, not having the platform, not being able to use the platform without social media in the same way back in your playing days. And this is going to sound a little crass maybe, but was it not as important to the general public what professional athletes had to say back when you were playing as it is now, where it seems like there is more of a celebrity status?
I don't think so. I think that really, if you look back over those years, I think the public yearned for it. But way before you guys were around, there were two guys who were down in Mexico City, John Carlos being one of them, and they gave the fist salute during the Olympics, and they got kicked out of the Olympics. Muhammad Ali during his time in Vietnam, talking about social issues and social injustice. Bill Russell, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all these guys got together in a format to talk about social issues. I think during the during the 80s, I think part of that just kind of died down. I think it was still there, but during the 80s, it was more, the players were more about themselves. You think about Jordan. Jordan probably had the biggest platform he could have been on, but he did not want to be involved. And that's all right. If you don't want to do it, nobody's going to make you. But Jordan had an opportunity, one of the few, that if Michael Jordan spoke, back then they used to have a commercial, it was E.F. Hutton, they had one, and the girl would be whispering to a guy, it's like, E.F. Hutton said, and everybody in the place would just stop and listen. Well, Michael Jordan would have been the same way, but he didn't want that platform. Remember, I think the one issue he had was, it was about tennis shoes being made over in Thailand and these third world countries, and paying, 50 cents for a day to make these shoes, and they cost, a couple of $100 back then. And Michael Jordan was asked about it, and he said, I think his line, I won't say paraphrase him here, but he said something like, Republicans buy shoes too. So Michael Jordan stepped away from that arena during that time. And he had that platform. And you think about the Dream Team, one of the greatest team ever assembled. Do you think about any of those guys during that time, other than playing in Barcelona, that said anything from a social standpoint? It was all about basketball.
It's important to make it, to make the statements that they make, because, the eyes are all on these guys. And to have, Jaylen and Jayson at 24 and 22, to step up like this and make a statement. And what I like is that they make a statement, but the whole team is, gathered together. It's not those two. It's just those two on behalf of the Boston Celtics. It's not just Jayson and Jaylen. There's coaches. You've seen Wick and the ownership group get behind these guys, and it's a whole a collective group moving forward as one. But with these two young guys, at the top of this whole thing. But when you step back and look at it, I know there was talk about whether they should play or not. Do you think they made the right decision by playing yesterday?
Yeah, I think they made the right decision by playing. I think that they knew more than we did about it. But it wasn't that long ago when everybody was downing Kaepernick for what he did. Even the NFL, had to apologize. So I think that a lot of things have changed during this time because of the social media, because of the platform that guys have, and to utilize it in that way, to me, is brilliant, because you have an audience of young people, a lot of young people. And if you're going to change this world in a positive way, it has to be those young people that make that change and pick that mantle up and they start to run with it.